Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, April the 14th. Pretty mild weather conditions today in the Mid-Atlantic region, in the Northeast U.S. There's a warm front that is lifting through the area. It looks like much of the action in the weather department over the next couple of days will be from the Great Lakes to the Mid-Atlantic to the Northeast U.S. There can be some strong to severe thunderstorms later today into tonight from the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic region, and then a strong cold front passes through later tonight, ushers in a cooler air mass for Tuesday, and there will be strong winds on Tuesday out of the west to northwest up to 40 miles per hour or so throughout the Mid-Atlantic region and northeast part of the nation. It turns much cooler behind a secondary cold front on Wednesday, but then much milder again by the end of the week, and certainly the beginning part of the upcoming weekend looks quite mild indeed along places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, with the 70s likely, maybe even into the lower 80s in places like D.C. on Saturday afternoon. Then a cold front comes through, probably shaping up for a pretty nice Easter Sunday in the Mid-Atlantic, in the Northeast U.S., with plenty of sunshine, a little bit cooler, but perhaps 60 to 65 degrees for afternoon highs. Before we get into the weather across the nation, let's take a look at the latest sea surface temperature anomalies. About a week or so ago, we put out our forecast for the tropical outlook and the summertime outlook, basically seeing some neutral signals here in terms of sea surface temperatures, and this is something we'll closely monitor over the next several weeks. But a couple of areas of interest that we'll be focused in on over the next several weeks. This is the west coast of South America right here. This is your El Nino or La Nina region, the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean, and you can see kind of a mixed bag. Warmer than normal water temperatures in the eastern part of the tropical Pacific, colder than normal out in the middle and even the western part of the tropical Pacific Ocean. And really, it stays relatively neutral, it looks like, for the next few months, giving us kind of a neutral signal, not a real active tropical season in the Atlantic Basin and not a real inactive season either, but basically a neutral system coming, a neutral signal coming from the Pacific Ocean. Now, in the Atlantic Ocean, this is the west coast of Africa. Notice, colder than normal pocket of temperatures here just off the west coast. That is an inhibiting factor for the development or intensification of those African waves that move with the trade winds to the west during the tropical season. And just north of there, basically near neutral, nearly normal sea surface temperatures in what we call the main development region, the MDR region of the Atlantic Ocean. This is the breeding ground area, and again, kind of a neutral signal coming from that part of the Atlantic Ocean. So all in all, if you can go on our website, ArcfieldWeather.com, to take a look at the tropical season and summertime outlook, and it looks like nearly normal kind of a season is headed to the Atlantic Basin. Now, last year we certainly mentioned that the main area of activity was liable to be the Gulf of Mexico, because that is indeed what typically happens with a La Nina type of summer season. This year, neutral signal in the Pacific Ocean. It looks like that main area of activity might be shifted to the east, let's say the eastern Gulf region and up along the eastern seaboard, where certainly there can be some tropical activity later on during the summer and going into the fall. So again, the eastern Gulf and up along the Atlantic seaboard, really anywhere from Florida to New England, can get in on some of the action this summer season. Now, in terms of severe thunderstorm possibility, again later today into tonight, there can be some strong to severe thunderstorm activity from the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic region, more than likely south of the Mason-Dixon line. Here is that the highest probability area right here in yellow as depicted by NOAA's Storm Prediction Center, again right around to the D.C. area, maybe just to the north and east of there, and westward into the Ohio Valley. A couple of frontal systems involved here. We have a warm front kind of lifting to the north right through this area as we speak here, causing a couple of scattered showers, and it'll cause temperatures to climb to higher levels compared to what we experienced over the upcoming weekend. And then a strong cold front approaches tonight, and that certainly looks like it'll be associated with some shower activity, and again, maybe a strong to even severe thunderstorm in portions of the Mid-Atlantic region later on today into tonight associated with that initial cold frontal system. There will be a secondary cold front on Tuesday night that ushers in the coolest air of the week for Wednesday in the Mid-Atlantic in the Northeast U.S. Now, beyond today, looks relatively quiet on Tuesday and Wednesday in terms of the possibility of severe weather. Well, before we go through some of the model forecasts for the continental U.S., here is the 10-day accumulated precipitation forecast from last night's zero-Z run of the GFS. Basically, all parts of the nation get some kind of rainfall over the next 10 days or so. The heaviest looks like right across the Mississippi Valley region, maybe into the Tennessee Valley, the southeastern U.S., but even New Mexico and Arizona get in on some of the rainfall. Again, this is over the next 10 days all the way out to the latter part of next week, right here Thursday, April 24th. So virtually every state in the union gets some rainfall, it looks like, over the next 10 days, and nothing on the excessive amount either. Now, we've certainly had our share of cold air outbreaks over the past few weeks from Canada or the eastern Pacific Ocean into the western and then central and eastern U.S., and we have another cold air outbreak coming for the middle part of the upcoming week. Here is the 850 millibar temperature anomaly forecast map for this morning, Monday morning, from last night's zero-Z run of the GFS. And warmer than normal conditions out across the Ohio Valley, and colder than normal air pushing south and east, and that sets up that much talked about here clash zone again between the cold dry air to the west and the warmer, more humid air to the east. In this particular case, the chance of severe thunderstorms will extend into this region later on today into tonight with the passage of the warm front to the north and the approach of that cold front from the north and west. So here we go now. Let's move forward here in time, and you can see by this evening, here is that kind of cold frontal boundary zone here, certainly as depicted here on the 850 millibar level, again with warmer, more humid air off to the east, colder, drier air off to the west. Can have some strong to severe thunderstorm activity right in that battle zone region. Now, on Tuesday, that cold air charges across the Great Lakes, and that cold front slides across the Atlantic seaboard, and west to northwest winds really increase in intensity throughout the Mid-Atlantic region, for example, on Tuesday, gusting up to 40 miles per hour or so, and those strong winds will continue into Tuesday night as a secondary cold front arrives, and a very windy and chilly day relative to normal on Wednesday in this part of the nation. This is the Wednesday morning forecast map. Pretty widespread area of colder than normal conditions at midweek. Notice a lot of warmer than normal conditions out across the western half of the nation. Now we move forward here. It takes a couple of days for that chill in the air to erode in the northeastern part of the nation, but it turns much warmer by the end of the week in the eastern U.S. and into the early part of the weekend. Here we are on Saturday. Again, you could see 80 degrees on Saturday afternoon in D.C., 70 certainly on the table for Saturday, the day before Easter. Philadelphia, even New York City, but upstream you have some colder than normal air, and there will be a cold frontal passage, it looks like, Saturday night in the Mid-Atlantic region in the Northeast U.S. It doesn't drive too far to the south and east, so we'll have to monitor that closely. Looks dry on Sunday for the most part in the Mid-Atlantic region. Easter Sunday, probably cooler than Saturday. Again, 75, 80 degrees possible on Saturday in parts of the Mid-Atlantic region. More than likely will be in the 60s, maybe 60 to 65 for highs, places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City on Sunday. Assuming that front does slide on through, it should be a mostly sunny day. Now, looking ahead to next week, looks basically warmer than normal in the eastern U.S. Kind of a change in the pattern comes after Easter, it looks like, to at least several day period in the eastern U.S. I'm talking about, with warmer than normal conditions. Again, this is next week. Still some colder air on the map here for sure. Towards the end of next week, it's really focused in on the northern plains, the southern part of Canada. But for several days next week, looks like a warmer than normal pattern setting up for the eastern U.S., where we have experienced plenty of cold air outbreaks over the past few weeks, and indeed another one coming for the middle part of this week. Well, let's walk through the surface forecast maps, again using the 0Z run of the GFS. Not much on the map right now in terms of precipitation. There is a band associated with that warm front that could produce a shower or two over the next few hours anywhere in the Mid-Atlantic region. And then that warm front basically lining up like this and moving off to the north and east ushers in some warmer air for the afternoon into the Mid-Atlantic region. Here is the cold frontal system that is approaching, moving in this fashion. This is the forecast map for midday today. Then we go into the late part of the afternoon into the early evening, and here is where there can be a strong to potentially severe thunderstorm later today into tonight. Certainly some downpours are possible in the Mid-Atlantic region, again with that cold frontal system, that initial cold frontal system approaching the area later today into tonight, and really it takes until early Tuesday for that to pass off the eastern seaboard. Here we go into the overnight hours. Now, again, this initial cold frontal system, there's a secondary on the way. The initial one is right in this area come early Tuesday morning, but there's a secondary cold front hanging back over the Great Lakes here. We'll move forward in time a little bit right here. Here we go with what we've experienced quite a bit over the past couple of months is strong pressure gradient and high winds. And again, in the wake of this initial frontal passage, the winds on Tuesday will gust to 40 miles per hour or so. DC, Philadelphia, New York City. You have this strong low pressure here and high pressure here, and the difference between the two is a tight pressure gradient here in the Mid-Atlantic, in the Great Lakes region here. And again, a windy day on Tuesday. Then that secondary front comes on through here by Tuesday evening. It ushers in cold air for this time of the year for Tuesday night and on Wednesday. And here we go on Wednesday morning, just quite a chilly air mass in this part of the nation, even some accumulating snow up across upstate New York, southeastern part of Canada, and still look at that pressure gradient, that tight pressure gradient between this high here and that departing strong low here. You have strong northwest flow here going into the day on Wednesday. So again, it starts to kick up on Tuesday out of the west to northwest, and that continues the strong winds on Tuesday night and Wednesday in the Great Lakes in the northeastern part of the nation. We'll go out a little bit farther in time here. That chilly air mass slides off the coast by the latter part of the week, and you can see here by Friday we have the return flow on this high. There's your southwesterly flow of air pumping in milder air towards the Great Lakes region from the south central states. It becomes milder in the east by certainly by the time we get to Friday. And then on Saturday, it looks like the day before Easter here, quite a warm day expected in the Mid-Atlantic region. Again, 80 plus degrees possible in DC. That's still several days away. So we'll fine-tune that forecast over the next few days. The 70s in Philadelphia and New York City. And then this next system looks like it'll slide a cold front through the area on Saturday night here. And that will usher in a little bit of a cool down on Easter Sunday for the northeastern part of the nation, with high pressure off to the north. Probably a sunny, dry day, probably quite a bit cooler than Saturday. Maybe highs 60 to 65 degrees, places like DC, Philadelphia, as opposed to the 70s or even 80 plus degrees. Probably, again, dry and breezy up across the northeastern states. And then we have to watch, this is a pretty impressive looking system by the second half of the upcoming week, and this certainly can produce some severe weather in the second half of the upcoming weekend out across the heartland, the middle part of the nation. So that's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.